After 8 months, about 8 months after the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, has been on strike over the implementation of IPS, the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, in the payment of university lecturers' salaries and allowances. Controversy kicked off because ASUU branches in the various universities are divided whether to accept the federal government's offer of 65 billion naira to Nigerian universities to address some of the lecturers' demands or call off the strike, or not. Now, with some branches insisting that government must meet all the demands before the strike is called off. Yes, no. What do you mean? 200 billion. No, sorry, 220 billion maybe. The Ahmadu Bello University branch agreed with the government on the 40 billion naira earned academic allowance, EAA. That branch, however, called for a payment of the allowance before the strike will be called off. Alternatively, lecturers at the Federal University of Petroleum Resources in Delta State said negotiations with the federal government must be concluded before the strike is called off. Their chairman, Ezekiel Agbalagba, said the Congress accepted the EAA but rejected the 25 billion naira for the revitalization of the universities. According to him, the latest concession by the federal government is an offer, adding, let it land in our purse first.
A bird in hand.
So we have a situation where ASUU chapters, the University of Maiduguri, Yobe State University, Federal University Gashua also resolved to get a serious commitment before the federal government for the call of the industrial action. There's so many issues to look at from that, but let's begin with the chairman of ASUU in one of the branches of ASUU at UNILAG, Mr. Dele Ashiru. He joins us virtually. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Ashiru. So, are you also for or against? Let's begin from there.
Well, good morning. Thank you for this invitation. I'd like to start by saying that ASUU's decisions are not taken at the level of branches. Because we have only one union, branches can express opinion. But when the union is to take a decision, it would aggregate, decisions from branches to arrive at a position. Therefore, whatever they say in Lafayette or in Fort Minna or in Maiduguri or in Unilag will only coalesce into a decision when the National Executive Council meets and look at all these positions with a view to arriving at a decision. So what branches are doing at the moment are merely considering government's proposal, and none of those positions as enumerated by you will amount to a decision of our union until such aggregation is done.
Union now. The national body, that is.
Yes, the national body, because the way decisions are taken in ASUU is bottom up. No president of ASUU can go to any meeting with government to announce a particular decision. But once offers are made, once proposals are made, these proposals are to be debated at the level of branches. And branches are free, our members are free to express their opinion, but only the National Executive Council can take a decision on behalf of the union.
But that sounds a little different from what we heard, what we have heard from time to time. ASUU would meet with the federal government and say, we will get to you after we have spoken with our members. So how does ASUU at the center merge, get feedback from other members, just as you have said. You know, some of them have expressed themselves, and then this is the position, the various positions that they are having. So if you say the final decision comes from ASUU, how then is that final decision taken without consulting?
The consultations have been made. And what you are reading out are outcomes of our consultations. For a decision to be made, the National Executive Council will meet. The National Executive Council is composed of all branch chairpersons who will take resolutions of their branches to that meeting. It is only after that meeting that a decision of our union can be taken. Members at the branch level, branches at their own level are free to debate and arrive at conclusions. But the union will take a decision when the National Executive Council meets, and the National Executive Council is composed of principal officers of our union and all branch persons of respective universities.
It's interesting that we put it that way, Dr. ASUU, because so now it's clear that people will have to wait. It would seem like ASUU has taken a position at that meeting. The federal government has also taken a position at that meeting, and the agreement is that nothing is divulged until ASUU has contacted with its organs and taking a decision back to the federal government and saying, we agree. So how soon are people going to have this final information or final conclusion of ASUU, and when is that official statement going to be made that the strike has been called off?
Well, talking about calling off the strike may be presumptive at the moment. Government met with our union yesterday, tried to dot the T's and cross the I's. Like the Honorable Minister of Employment said, our leadership will still have to come back to our members. So between today, Monday, and Wednesday, branch congresses will meet again to consider the report in totality of the engagement of our union with government. And then branches will then take decisions at that level, which the respective chairmen will now take to the National Executive Council meeting if the national leadership so directs. So, I mean, just like it happened last week, in the coming week, if the leadership is persuaded by government's offer, directives will be issued to branches. Branches will follow the directives of the union. And if the union is persuaded enough, a meeting of the National Executive Council will then be called to aggregate decisions from branches as a basis for deciding whether the strike should be suspended or not.
Okay, we've since been joined by Dr. Ibrahim Bakare, who's chairman, the LASU branch of ASUU. Good morning, doctor, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Dr. Bakare.
Yeah. How are you, ma'am? Good morning, viewers.
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Bakare, how is it that we all thought that ASUU was one body, a national body? So how is it that LASU did not join in this strike action?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. It is a very long story, which I think time may not really be able to allow me to, dabble into. But
so, Dr. Bakare,
hello,
Dr. Bakare,
hello.
Can you tell it to us in like 2 minutes?
Yeah. I was about, going into that, because whatever I say now concerning our relationship with the national will be seen to be contemptuous. But all I can tell you is that at the Lagos State University, which now ranks as the second best university in Nigeria, we have embraced, peace. We have really taken our internal peculiarities into consideration in ensuring that academic activities remain, very active. And for the question you actually asked, I'm not in the best position to really interpret that. That is left for the, pending court of law case to really, deal with. But I can authoritatively say that we are not part of the, strike, for now. And we remain very active in terms of our academic activities. Even in the heat of COVID, we remain the only active university, in Nigeria. And that has really worked for us, because at the Lagos State University, we called ourselves, and asked something that, do we need to go back to our ugly days, or we want peace, tranquility, understanding, maturity, and new technologies for dealing with, union, activities to be the order of the day. And the Congress really agreed that we should toe the path of the peace in terms of how we negotiate the welfare needs of our members with, the state government. And since the state government, had really answered us, we felt we really need to really work well. Plus very robust, management that we have. Because there's hardly any issue you take to the management, even though it could be very challenging, but we work as a united family at the Lagos State University with all relevant stakeholders to make sure that university remains, flying.
Dr. Ashiru, what do you have to say? What's your response to that response to my question?
Well, as I speak with you, the man who just finished talking, a very good friend of mine, is not the chairman of ASUU in LASU. As he rightly admitted, he is not known to the national leadership of our union. The union has only one charter, which could be given to branches after fulfilling conditions precedent. As I speak with you, there's a case against the colleague who just spoke now in a competent court of law. So what he's doing is even sub judice to come on air and answer to the name chairman ASUU in LASU. He doesn't represent, he doesn't approximate that description. As I speak with you, the LASU branch is under some form of sanction from the national leadership. And that is the reason why they are not part of this strike. And somebody who is not part of a struggle cannot come on air and be eulogizing a university where basic scholarly and academic ethics are being violated, on a daily basis, and who would eventually become a beneficiary of the struggle of others. So please let it be known that Dr. Bakare is not known to the leadership of ASUU. A case has been instituted against him and some other impostors in LASU, and it is sub judice for him to come on air to answer to that name, which he has just answered. He is not the chairman of ASUU in LASU. He doesn't have the charter of ASUU, and he cannot come on this respected and distinguished channel to impersonate.
All right, Dr. Bakari, given the value of the fact that the case, just as you have said, is in court already, without speaking to the details of the case, so we also are not culpable, he has also made reference to the fact that, you know, ASUU, LASU is likely to be a beneficiary of the issues, of the struggle, so to speak, as he also rightfully called it. Do you want to respond to him?
Yeah, it is quite unfortunate that my dear friend has only allowed, himself to be very contemptuous of the, case already awaiting attention in court. You would have seen that my language has been very, very civil. My language has been very, very mature. You see, we need to be very careful about the way we manage ASUU at all levels. And why? You cannot begin to harass academic colleagues who had long really given all it takes to ASUU to survive. I would like to ask my dear friends a question that the ASUU National we're talking about today, or even ASUU at any other branch, as the case may be, has it been, funded, activated, or assiduously, taken to the level it is today by the actions of the very few? You see, these are some of the things we keep questioning, and it is very, vital for us to have appreciative understanding of what the key ingredients of modern unionism today entails. Unionism does not really entail, personal attack against, people. It does not really entail, propaganda. It does not entail bringing down or puncturing the self-esteem of others. In LASU, our ASUU is very civil. Our ASUU is very peaceful. And if you will recall, I did say that there is a case that is pending in a court of law. Whatever we say here, I tell you, could be taken against us. In LASU today, we are the second best in the world, in Nigeria. This is a fact that no one can really take away from us. In Africa today, LASU is the 11th best university in Africa. In the world today, we have surpassed the University of Lagos, the big universities. And why? Because we have fashioned out better technologies, better scholarly, distinctions for dealing with academic matters. And that's the reason why we remain peaceful.
Okay, Dr. Bakari, just a moment.
We have redefined governance.
Dr. Bakari, just one moment. Let me ask Dr. Ashiru this. So, if ASUU at the center does not recognize Dr. Bakari as the chairman, and ASUU at the center believes that ASUU LASU has been suspended, who then does ASUU at the center recognize as the chairman of ASUU in LASU?
Well, the chairman that is recognized in ASUU, in LASU as the ASUU chairman is Dr. Isaac Akinloye Oyewumi.
Also on suspension with his association, right?
No, he was illegally dismissed by the authorities of LASU. The case is in court. The tradition of our union is that if our leaders in branches are illegally dismissed, they will remain as branch chairpersons until the case is dismissed in court.
Okay. Now, there's one other issue. Just a moment, Dr. Ashu, so we can guide the conversation. I remember, I mean, it's all out there in public that part of the prayers of ASUU to the federal government is about state universities, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What's the issue that ASUU at the center have with the federal government and state universities?
Okay, thank you very much. Our union observed that the rate of proliferation of state universities, if not checked, will create problems of monumental proportion. Like our president once retorted, governors are beginning to turn creation of universities into constituency projects. You find a situation where a governor cannot fund a university appropriately. That same governor establishing 2-3 more universities. For example, in Ogun State, in Ondo State, in Ekiti State, in Kano State, you find state governors creating universities as they choose. Our union believes that to have a functional education, universities must be properly funded. If you cannot fund a university, why create 2-3 more? Therefore, one of the issues, contentious issues in this ongoing strike action is the fact that we are asking that a platform be created for our union to engage with visitors to state universities, which are the governors, on how to manage and sustain the universities that they have. And beyond that, the revitalization fund that we talk about, state universities are beneficiaries from that revitalization fund. And LASU in particular had benefited extensively from, monies brought into LASU from the struggle of the national leadership. So what has been agreed is that the National Universities Commission Act will be reviewed in such a way that it will now make the processes for creation of state universities more stringent. And I think from the last brief we got from the national leadership, we are satisfied with the progress that has been made so far between the NUC and our union on the matter. That is the bit about state universities as it affects the ongoing strike action.
Okay. Well, Dr. Ashiru and Dr. Bakare, let's take a moment to take a few messages. When we return, this conversation will continue.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Dr. Ashiru, I have a tweet here from Festus Akimboyewa, who says that it doesn't seem like the word compromise is in ASUU's dictionary, that ASUU should try and actually compromise with the government and make sure that things are sorted out early enough for children to go back to school.
Do you want me to react to that?
Yes.
Well, when a strike is this protracted, people become frustrated in a way. It is not true that the word compromise is not in ASUU's dictionary. And I will give you instances of several compromises that have led us to the situation that we are at the moment. Bear in mind that the reason why we are on this strike is because of government's failure to implement an agreement it signed with us in 2009. And we have embarked on no fewer than 5 strikes, which are products of compromises to get to where we are today. Last year, on the 7th of February 2019, government signed a memorandum of action. By a memorandum of action, it means government promised that it's going to do A, B, C in XYZ timeline. Between 7th February 2019 and the 8th of March 2020, that we commenced a warning strike, government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria had not implemented one item on the memorandum of action. Isn't that compromise? Now, Nigerians are beginning to say we should compromise. If we agree to compromise now and government reneges on its promise again, who are we to run to help us claim allowances that we have not received since 2014? This is 2020. Who are we going to run to help us renegotiate our salaries such that a professor who had worked for more than 25 years with the highest degree will stop going home with a paltry 416,000 naira in a month? Who is the person in Nigeria whose allowances have not been paid since 2014? And now all we are getting from government is promises. We shall. If we go by this love for compromise and we compromise and listen to government, will it be appropriate for our union to resume another strike 1 year after if all these promises are unfulfilled? So I think that Nigerians should understand that ASUU is not belligerent. ASUU is not an unfeeling organization. ASUU takes its decision out of painstaking analysis of objective conditions. And that is why you will recall that when you started this program, you will hear some of our members saying that these agreements must be fulfilled before we call off the strike. So the point that I'm trying to make is that we have compromised with government. Even in this, we were demanding for 200 a lockdown. They cannot afford the money. We said, okay, pay 50%, 110. That's a lot of compromise. You are owing us end academic allowances for 6 years. Where you say you will pay for only 3 years. We say, okay, those are compromises. But at the issue of such compromise is government's willingness to faithfully implement agreements that they reach with our union. And I think that is the issue that we need to address.
Still talking about those compromises, Mr. Beg your pardon, Dr. Ashiru, you remember that, maybe just bring us up to speed here. How far or how much of all of your demands has the federal government met? You've talked about the earned academic allowances. You've talked about the university revitalization, some. Bring us up to speed. How far the government has done about that? How far with the visitation panel? How far with, the state universities issue that you raised earlier? Those conditions, those requests, those demands that ASUU made of government, in the order or in whatever number, in whatever order you want to put them, how much of them has the federal government lined up with? And what are the timelines, if any?
Thank you very much. Let's start with funding for revitalization. That is still contentious because the demand of our union is pay 50% of what you promised. Government is offering, as we have read in the papers, 30 billion. Our union will meet in due course to consider that. The second is the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement that will deal with conditions of service. We are told at the last but one meeting that the government team has been reconstituted They have received their letters. But up till today, government is still yet to make it public. So we will require that government makes its team public so that Nigerians can know and our members can know who we are negotiating with on behalf of government. On end academic allowances, government has offered to pay 40 billion, which is arrears of end academic allowances that are being owed our members. I think that there's no much contention on this because since government said all unions in the university will have a share of the 40 billion, I think that from what we have read in the papers, that seemed to be agreeable to our members. On the visitation panels, we were told that the visitor to Federal University, President Muhammadu Buhari, had constituted the visitation panels. What is being awaited is for it to be gazetted. Up till now, their names have not been gazetted. Not only that, they have not been made public. We're thinking that since this doesn't require any financial implication, government can go ahead and make these announcements and put paid to the issue. On state universities, it was agreed that the NUC Act be reviewed in such a manner that will make more stringent processes for establishing a university. As at the last meeting, our union was satisfied with the progress that has been made so far on that. So I think that the only issue that is contentious as I speak with you, two of them, the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement, which government must make its own team public, and the issue of revitalization fund for the universities. And I think that those two can be resolved once government becomes more interested in bringing this strike to an end.
Okay, we need to wind down now. Victor Owo says the Nigerian government knows how to do quick fix, not going to the root cause. This cannot go on at 60. The ASUU / government showdown must end. Now, Dr. Bakare, as we wind down, I would like your thoughts on the way forward, because it's about time the children went back to school. People have lost interest in what exactly ASUU is fighting for. Their interest now is that children should return to school. And this hiatus, permanent hiatus that keeps going on because of ASUU strikes, must come to an end. So when you enter university, you know exactly how many years you're going to spend in university, like we did when we went to university.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you very much. Let me set the record straight. The ASUU branch of the Lagos State
in
University
1 minute, Dr. Bakare.
In
1 minute.
It's not on strike, but as part of the solutions to the problems, I think it is important for the relevant stakeholders to show understanding on this issue so that the state of education in this country could move to the next level. And on top of that, you cannot recognize SAC members of the union. That is what ASUU National has been doing to ASUU. And injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. You see, the laws establishing, ASUU is so sacrosanct that you need to develop the branch before you talk about the national. The branch really elected us in the light of years of neglect of ASUU National concerning, the case of ASUU LASU. So any other statements, no matter how, challenging it may be, should not be made against ASUU LASU members, because my dear friend over there from the University of Lagos does not really understand the intricacies, the challenges, and the dynamics of
one thing that we can pray, beg your pardon, Dr. Bakare, One thing we can pray is that within the shortest possible time, every issue be resolved so that we can have one body that is fostering the development of the minds of the people we call the leaders of Nigeria tomorrow. But we have to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation, Dr. Ibrahim Bakare of ASUU in LASU, and Dr. Dele Ashiru, who is chairman of ASUU at the University of Lagos. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and thoughts.
Thanks so much for granting us audience.
Yeah, so back to you.
Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation. Do join us.